Hi there, everybody, and welcome to the Quantum Bridge with myself, Casper, and as ever with my co-host, Gary. And today we're fortunate enough to be joined by Adam, but since Gary knows far more about Adam than I do already, and I'm just keen to get to know Adam a bit, I'm going to pass across to Gary to take us into the show.
Thanks, Casper. So welcome to the show, Adam, first of all. It's lovely to see you here.
Thanks for having me.
That's all right. Now, I should just give a little bit of background of how I came across Adam. It's actually on Twitter. So I've been going through and inviting a couple of people that I've sort of got to know over the last few years. Who knows, maybe this will be a one-off, or it might even turn into my own Twitter Files series. You never know. So I sort of got to know Adam's work around that sort of 2020 period, and seeing his sort of work and channel grow over that time. It's been quite interesting, really, and to see how his work has changed. But if you could give us a little bit of background on yourself, Adam, when you sort of found you enjoyed your art, where that started from, and then sort of just give us a little bit of background in that way, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I was always like an arty kid. I was always drawing. That would kind of get me into trouble at school. Like I wouldn't be doing the work, I'd be doing the drawing side of things. I kind of like lost my way with it a bit as I kind of got older. And then probably I would say about, it's got to be about 5 or 6 years ago now that I started painting. And then 2019, when I decided to kind of have a good go at it and kind of make it a business. Just before the world went crazy.
Yeah, just before. I mean, maybe there's something in that, you know, you never know.
Yeah.
So at that point, you know, what was your work like in 2019? Because I saw in 2020 it's got quite political at that point. But how did you start off?
So I would say it was kind of around 2017, maybe 2016 is when I kind of began painting, and I was just painting anything that I thought like people might like. I sort of had a bit of a different style, but there was no kind of like direction. It wasn't until I'd always had it in my mind, because I was it kind of crosses like the two things that were kind of going on in my life, was like me trying to get into art, trying to find like an audience or a way to at least like get people to see my stuff. And with the kind of the Brexit talk and the Trump presidency, I was watching, I found like people on YouTube that kind of like helped me understand what was happening in the US. And you know, with things like the Brexit, it kind of like that reshaped, or maybe at least like rethink kind of like some of the things that I was kind of like held as like political beliefs, really. That I had this thought that, you know, I wanted to somehow, I didn't want to be like a political artist, but I wanted to paint some of the people that I thought were just like good, doing good things, you know? And that's kind of like in 2019, I finally like did it. I don't know if you're aware of the guy, he's an American guy, Fleckers Talks. He used to go out to like the protests and kind of like go around and speak to the people on the other side. You'd get some like crazy footage from things like that. That's kind of like what kind of like started his thing. He's now has a podcast. I sent a painting out to him. I gradually began to build like off of that. I think we both know Zuby. Painted him. I was fortunate enough he came to me to collect the painting. That was great. And from there, yeah, that was 2019. I was just trying to paint the people that I found interesting.
So Was you sort of doing regular work? I mean, what made you? That's quite a bold move to decide you're going to do your art, or at least give it a go. Was you still doing other jobs and things on the side?
So 2019, I was still working. Actually, I worked nights, so my day would be kind of like I would come home early morning, a few hours sleep, then wake up and start painting. And it's like you were saying earlier, it's kind of strange that 2019 I decided. I always think this to myself, like I'm really fortunate that I decided to take that step in 2019, because that's where I started to build like an audience off of like painting like other people. You can spend a lot of time trying to like develop kind of like things that you think people like, but the key thing is like have an audience, and that's kind of like what like helped me from 2019 going into 2020. That helped me kind of like now take this from just me doing it on the side to it becoming a business like a few years later.
Yeah, because obviously we saw, obviously as in 2020 when everything went nuts, I guess it was a catalyst in some way for you. Like I saw your work, Jake. You created that whole, government won't save you. That whole series of designs and T-shirts and stuff, kind of sort of a graphic design, I guess. I mean, that was quite a big thing for you, I would have thought. Really, was it? That whole series?
Well, for me, it was more of watching everything that was kind of going on around, and I felt like it would be a good way to at least get people to think. Like that phrase, it's just I think it really kind of like captures like what that moment in time was like, right? People were kind of like, my personal thing is like, if people want to wear masks, you go ahead, you do whatever makes you feel like good, right? But the moment you start doing like these things, the government tells you not to do it, then to do it, then not to do it again. Now it's okay to do this, now it's not okay to do this. Stand here, like wait here before you go in the shop, wait for the green light to come on. And a lot of these things are kind of like coming down from the government, as we know. The T-shirts, actually, when I was walking around shops at the time, there was a lot of support. There's a lot of people that I agree with what your T-shirt says. And
Adam, can I just as somebody external for a moment, who isn't close to any of this, I think what we're doing is we're making quite a lot of assumptions about what people might know, because obviously Gary does, and obviously it's your stuff. But things like the T-shirts, what sort of images are we talking about?
So it's just the message is the original one was the government will not save you. Wish I had one to hand with me right now, but I don't.
We'll get.
It's all right. We'll sort all of those things out, I'm sure.
And that was the first one.
Tinfoil hat one, was it?
Yeah, that was beginning of 2020. So they've kind of from that was 2022, that one. So from 2020 was the original, the government will not save you. It was just as simple as that. And it was basically to sort of like, I thought it would be a good idea for people to be able to express. A lot of people have done this, but I think the message of the government will not save you really kind of like nails down the sort of the thought, because I don't mind how people want to like look after themselves, so long as it's not going to affect me, right? Or and infringe on other people's rights. So it was a political state. It's probably the most like political I've got with anything. It actually kind of stopped my Instagram account kind of like being able to do a lot of things. I tried to run ads with it, and they wouldn't allow it because it was a political message. And I guess at the time with 2020, the Trump election coming up, that was too political. Wasn't allowed to say that. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's not a very controversial take. And like I've gone around like loads of places and loads of people say, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's weird to me that, you know, that it has to be like a kind of, in that time, it probably was more controversial than it would be at any other time. If you'd have gone back 10 years, most people would have been, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it was an odd time, wasn't it? Yeah. So in some ways, that crazy time gave you some material, I suppose, to do. I mean, do you think that whole period helped or hindered your creativity and platform?
It definitely helped. I can't deny. I took the, you know, the good with the bad. Obviously, if I could choose, I'd rather we didn't go into lockdown back in 2020. But I made sure that with the time that I had, I made the most out of it. I wasn't too sure really what was going to happen. I didn't really know if people would be interested in sort of like buying artwork, or, you know, I remember thinking the day we went into lockdown, I was kind of like thinking, okay, well, this might be kind of like it for the foreseeable future. I kind of knew that this wasn't going to be like a 3-week thing. Like, you know, a lot of people just go, oh yeah, it's only 3 weeks. You know, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, right, I don't know when this is going to end. Just to say, it's at least going to be like a few months before we get any sort of like sort of talk about like, and you know, it's one of those things where you just think, I can either sort of sit and kind of like wait it out, or I can like be a bit proactive and kind of, like, you know, I had loads of things that I had planned to do, and that just kind of gave me like more time, because you couldn't do anything else. Nothing else was open.
Adam, can I ask what happened with your work during that time, and have you subsequently left? Are you full time on your art and designs now, or do you still do an element of normal work?
Yep, no, I'm full time now, and at the time I was still employed, but I was then made redundant later in the year, which was, in my honest opinion, like my favorite outcome of that, because then I could kind of, it was like a safety net to kind of like go on and like pursue it. Yeah. And as for kind of like how the 2020 went, it went better than I thought. I didn't like I said, I kind of expected maybe like things would kind of like take a bit of a dip, but no, it was
and Adam, a couple of questions about what you were doing at the time. Can I just check on where were you selling and marketing and getting I take it, orders, you know, including maybe a personal website? And also the other thing that I'm not as familiar with as Gary will be is actually the mediums that you use, both in terms of the art materials and in terms of where your art ends up. Now, you've touched obviously on the t-shirt side, but can you give an idea of perhaps other types of format that you use for both marketing yourself and making this all happen? And then obviously the other area that people might be interested in engaging with your stuff is on what formats and modalities can they actually buy and engage with your art?
Yep. So Twitter is the main thing. That's the there is no other platform like it. So I'm pretty happy that I've managed to avoid any kind of like suspensions on that so far.
You're still there, yeah.
It's it really is like, it is really powerful tool. That's how, going back to 2019, that was the main way that I would reach out to people. I'd paint them. I would kind of like either send them a DM or get in their comments with the picture, and just try and get their attention. A lot of the time it worked. actually, I think probably every time that I've done it, it had worked. Unless it was somebody that was like really, really, like millions of followers already. So I kind of caught a lot of people that had painted like as they were on their rise up as well. Like Zuby at the time had probably around like 60,000 followers and just happened to live in the same city as me at the time. So it really like worked out. So that's kind of like there is no Instagram. It doesn't have any effect really on my business. I do have some interactions there, but Twitter is just there's a lot of bad with it, but I think the benefits really outweigh the cons. As for mediums, I started off, I was just solely doing paintings 2019, and that's in acrylic paints. I had quite a different style back then. It was a bit more pop art. I would use kind of like Posca pen markers to kind of like do outlines. They'd have like a bold like outline around them. So it's a little bit different. 2020, it kind of evolved a bit, and I was started to do a bit more sort of I would say more like realism kind of like stuff as well. And I was also doing the t-shirts at the time, which is a bit of graphic design. I kind of dabbled with that, but I really like doing like physical like art. So for me, I try and like paint and drawing and things like this. And in 2022, I started a sketch series that was meant to run every day of the year. I think I got to about September, and it kind of like it was just
it was a big task. I think I was thinking, how's he going to do this? Yeah. I mean, I should say.
Yeah, you Bruce Lee. Yes.
Obviously, I was the Kung Fu movie guy on Twitter before that ended abruptly. But so I had to get that one off Adam. That was my little way of supporting him and getting something I liked as well.
I really enjoyed that. I do think about bringing it back. It's really good for building like momentum.
Maybe it's one of those ones. It seems good at the time, maybe.
Well, the idea came about on New Year's Eve of 2021, and I was just thought, next year I'm going to just like do some sketches and just kind of like just improve it in that way. And I wasn't really planning on doing like a series. And I'd done a Tom McDonald and Kurt Cobain, and they were quite well received on Twitter. And I thought, just moments like thing, I just thought I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to do a sketch a day for the year. I thought to myself, in a weekend, I was thinking, I don't know if I'm going to have enough people to like fill like 365 days of sketches with. It was difficult sometimes, but it was, looking back on it, it was really enjoyable. It's kind of like having sort of like I used to do the sketches usually within an hour at night time. So it's kind of like the end of the day. It's just kind of like it was like a sort of like a ritual at the end of the night. It was like my last like thing to do before I go to bed. Put some music on, sketch out whoever, and it was good and well received as well, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We're running short on time as usual on these because they only run for about half an hour. But I should, I found interesting looking at your more recent work. There's been some wildlife things and pet portraits.
Yeah.
Now, does this mean that you're more at peace within yourself? Is it a reflection that the madness has ended?
That might be part of it. I just kind of found like I always like to try and think of like a new way to kind of like kind of have like a new avenue for like my business. Like the sketches was part of that. That was a big part of 2022. The animal kind of the wildlife stuff was kind of like towards the end, September, October kind of time. And that went really well. So yeah, I'm just always trying to think of like new ways. I haven't really thought too much into it, why I kind of done that. It's just the things that I like, right? It's just always trying to think of a new kind of like thing. Like I have like the outlaw stuff that I'm doing at the moment. That's just kind of like another avenue to go down and to explore.
Yeah, and I've seen you just leased a place, I believe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
As we're finished on this, where you are at the moment and where you
Yeah.
see yourself going forward now, because that's that's quite a bold step.
Yeah, so that's probably one of the biggest things that I've done. Something that I didn't really envision myself doing in 2019. I used to paint out of my garage, and yeah, it's kind of like, for me, working from home for the past 3 years, it does sort of you get a bit comfortable, like with being at home like all the time. There's always like other things to do as well as like work, right? So it's sometimes it is a bit difficult and limited to space. So I wanted to have like a space where I can do like bigger projects, bigger paintings, and hopefully take everything to like the next level.
Yeah, you got your own little studio now. So who'd have thought from a few years ago?
That's it. I mean, I never thought like this was possible, to be honest with you. Obviously I believed in myself, but it was kind of like, it just seemed like a one of those things that other people like do, right?
Well, it's the same as me sitting here, mate. I can assure you of that.
Yeah, you think to yourself like, is it possible? I know I can do it, but it's like, it's weird. And then with everything that happened in 2020, you just think, but you just keep going. You chip away at it, and you got to sort of like put the work in and try and stay versatile. So I think that's kind of like what you're saying with the animal stuff and that.
Yeah.
I'd always try and think of like new ways to kind of like build some interest in that.
Cool. So is there anything else you want to add, Casper? Because we've only got a couple of minutes now.
No, I've noticed the time as well. I think if Adam's willing to come back, the only there's plenty of areas I'd like to go in, but the only one that I'd specifically like to sort of get into is the area of talent, and what Adam just touched on about believing in yourself and just keeping going. So those areas to me are really interesting, and also Adam's influences, sort of artistic influences, and any actual learnings that he can bring to bear that would help the audience. So I think there's plenty more to talk about, but that's obviously entirely in Adam's hands. But I'm really happy I've got to learn a lot more, and I'm looking forward to seeing many more of the images too.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. Happy to come back and talk about it.
Great.
Brilliant.
Good luck with everything, Adam. It seems to be going well.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully talk to you again soon.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you very much. From the Quantum Bridge out.